Good morning and welcome to the third and the last day of this conference. Before we start, I would like to inform everyone that we are going to have two sessions in the morning, and at around 11:15 we are going to have a panel discussion on sustainable development goals. Now, our first speaker is Mr. Alexander Dasharif, who is here. I would like to introduce him to all of you. He has a dual qualification, engineering degree and MBA from Paris and New York, respectively. He has the first experience in research and development on vehicles connected with the MIT Media Lab, Boston. He is currently a solution engineer at Akamai Technologies, world leader in cybersecurity, cloud and web acceleration. He is also a member of the Akamai IoT Center of Excellence. He has the opportunity to exchange with the biggest French and European companies around major issues related to the city of the future. This allows him to have a 360-degree view of the technological challenges of tomorrow. Now, may I invite sir on the stage to address the gathering, please.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here, thank you for having me. So we'll start the presentation in a few minutes once I get the slides. Otherwise I can just present it without slides, it will be funnier, but it will be harder for you to follow maybe. So meanwhile, let me just explain to you what Akamai is. Akamai was founded by Dr. Tom Layton, a professor at MIT in 1998, to make internet faster, secure, and more reliable. Because it's important to know that internet was never made for the use we have today, and certainly never made for the use we will have tomorrow with all those huge amount of data transmitting over the internet. Internet at the beginning was only made as a means of communication between scientists and searchers all around the world. And today the aim of the presentation will be... Yeah. Yeah, it's the right presentation. Can I have the... Yeah. Otherwise you can just go. So, yeah, next slide please. Again. All right. So the aim of this presentation is not to talk about Akamai, but rather to present the threat landscape for communication between smart factory and its associated CPS, Cyber Physical System, as modeled in the concept of Industry 4.0. Next slide, please. So the agenda will be, we will first start with a high-level overview of what is Industry 4.0 and its main component. Then we'll go and study what are the industrial risks and the threat actors that are present and that are threatened the smart factory or the implementation of smart factory. We'll see some example of hijacked or hacked factories, and then we will end with some conclusion regarding the security, the cyber security of those factories, and some recommendation that you can use and implement when creating new project around smart factories or around IoT project in general. Yeah. So Industry 4.0, you might have heard about this term. It's one of the many concepts of industry of the future, and it's an European view of the industry. It was created in Germany in 2011, and it holds the promise to repatriate the production in the territory and to reduce the manufacturing costs, because those are the two main challenges of every European industry company. It uses a combination of self-optimization, self-cognition, and self-communication into the industry to have a smart factory that is able to manage itself. And when we look at the scientific literature, we found that smart factory, artificial intelligence, cyber physical system, and Internet of Things are the four main components of Industry 4.0, and this is what we will study in terms of cyber security. All done. So, to have a smart factory, you obviously need to have a factory. You have sensor and actuator on the factory, on the machinery itself. The sensor will send data to the data center, the brain or the AI. You have different name for that. Data center, brain, AI, cyber system. So if you can just, yeah. So in the middle, you have the data center. And it will send data back to the actuator, order back to the actuator. The actuator will therefore process the information. Hold on. Go back a little bit. All right, just stay here. And the factory will work like this. However, this is not a truly smart factory because in this factory, you're only taking internal information. You are not you don't analyze data from external sources. This is why a truly smart factory will also gather data from employees, supplier, and also customer, visitor, the market too, and also other factories. So if you go just, yeah, again, yeah. So this is a model for a smart factory, combination of the whole process of information inside the factory. So the sensor will send data to the data center. The data center will also collect information from other smart factory, from the employees, the supplier. Maybe they will find that there are resources that are becoming scarcer or resources that are becoming abundant, and therefore it will change the way the smart factory will want to produce the end product. And also information about the market, because the market is ever changing, and it's good to know that our product will be sold or not, because we don't want any stock. We want to have a zero stock approach. So this is the picture of the smart factory, the full picture of the smart factory. It's a very simple view that you can use for every smart system. Basically, if you want to, if you change the physical factory with a car, you have the concept of smart mobility. If you change it, the physical factory with a building, you have the concept of smart building. So a predictable outcome of this would be better product quality, better production, better energy efficiency, because you have a whole system that is able to manage itself, and more manufacturing jobs. They will be different than what we have today, because today manufacturing jobs are very technical jobs. Tomorrow there will be more digital jobs. However, everything will rely on near real-time decision-making process by the data center, near real-time data transmission from the sensor to the data center and from the data center to the actuators, and secure communication and network availability. And as you've guessed, today we'll talk about secure communication. So, in order to talk about cybersecurity, one should first define it. So to have a cyber-secure system, a cyber-secure system should be, the system should be available at all time, and it should also guarantee the integrity of the communication and the confidentiality of the communication. Those are the three pillars of cybersecurity. If you're missing one of those, your system is not secure. Next. Then, now that we have defined what is security, what is cybersecurity, the next question is why should we care about cybersecurity in the industry? Maybe it's not of any interest. Well, during my, thanks to my job at Akamai, I have the privilege to talk to many CTO and CEO of global industry companies, and they shared with me those concerns, those threats, such as the intellectual property theft, because if you have a smart factory, then everything is digitalized, everything is present on the data center. If everything is present on the data center, then the blueprint of your product are digitalized and present on the data center. So if someone can break into the data center, they can change the value that are present on your blueprint, steal them maybe, so that's the leakage of information, and also do some product sabotage, because they can maybe change the value, and by changing the value, they can either add a malware on your product. Think about a car manufacturer that sold car with a malware on it. That won't be good. Or just sabotage the product and make the brake of a car to be not working or to be not efficient under some condition. And since we are on the production level, the testing have already been done. So when you test your product, when you realize your product, you first test it, and once it's tested, you produce it. and you produce it, assuming that the tests are already good. But in a smart factory, if you can change the blueprint, then you change the end product, but not the test that has been used. See? And also production sabotage, because I can modify the product, but I can also impact the production. I can make you produce more goods than you will be able to sold, or you can produce less good that you agreed to sold to another company, and therefore that will impact you on your business directly. There are also impact on the society. So those were the impact of the company, on the company level. But since we're talking about smart factory, and smart factory cover a wide range of type of industry, from energy to nuclear to cars to buildings, there are also impact on society. If let's say, we get a disaster and someone is able to make explode my nuclear facility with just a DDoS attack, then it will have a high impact on the society. Similarly, with the leakage of information, today we trust big companies with our information, personal identifiable information, and if they are leaked, then we need to change our way of living, because we need to change our password, we need to change our bank account, we need to change a lot of things in order for us to remain safe and secure. So this has a huge impact on society. Now that we know why it's important to be secure, or to secure our smart factories, it's important to know against who we should protect ourselves. So we have defined five groups, of attackants. So I don't know if you can read it, but it's inside. The first one is insider. The second one is in yellow. It's hacktivist, H-A-C-K, and tivist. It's a contraction between hacker and activist. Then you have the cybercriminals, the terrorists, and the nation state, so France, US, Israel, India, every country in the world. So the insider, they all have different motivation, and it's important to know and understand their motivation, because that will impact the way they will attack us or attack the smart factory. Insider are the employees of your factory. They are not a big threat, but they can steal information about your blueprint, your patent, and distribute it. I mean, every year it's becoming a running gag, but every year, 2 months prior to the Apple release, we see the new iPhone. We already know what the iPhone looks like. That's insider jobs. So it's not very harmful, but it can still make you lose a few $1 million. Then you have the hacktivists. Those are people that are ideological motivated. They think they can be judged on the internet, and they use this power to judge between what they think are good people and bad people, or good company and bad company. They have a medium to low level of sophistication, because their goal is just to disturb your factory. They want to take it down for a few hours to spread a message of the fact that what you said was not good, for instance, or what you produce is not good, or your positioning is harming their country, for instance. This has a low level of risk, or we categorize it as a low level of risk, but this is growing. Then we have the cybercriminal. It's the complete opposite. They are profit motivated. They are after the money. All they want is making money, and they are investing heavily in technology to be able to make more money. And the way it works is they would want to go inside your smart factory, and they would want to either stay silent, collect information to be able to sell them, to sell them to other company or country or whatever, or they can threaten you by putting a ransomware, and they can lock down your factory from the inside, and you have to pay a ransom to be able to use your factory again. And of course, this has a huge cost, and it's not just few million, it's few billion generally. After that, you have the terrorists. So they are a bit like the hacktivists, except that the fact that they are just here to destroy. They don't want to disturb you, they want to destroy your factory. And if they can do it, they will do it. And unfortunately, they are starting an ideological warfare, cyber warfare, against countries such as France, the US, Israel, and they have a medium level of sophistication, but an increasingly high level of risk. This is taken very seriously by government and also at an industry level. And finally, you have the nation states. So nation states are, well, let's say they have unlimited power or near unlimited power, and they can do pretty much whatever they want. And their goal would be to disturb or destroy your factory because you remain in a position of high position within your country. So if you're a nuclear facility in your country, and another country is at war with your country, then they might target you because you are an easy prey and you can do a lot of damage. So those are the 5 groups that we need to protect ourselves against. Next one, please. So now, what are the targets? So this is my, my model of the smart factory, and we can already see some weak points. The first weak point is, and will always be, the people. The people are unpredictable, they are emotional, and they don't work as a cyber system. So if I can reverse engineer the way someone works, the way he consults a website, I can go and implant a malware on it. And then from that, I can, sorry, can you go back, please? I can infect the data center and I can change whatever I want. Similarly with the customer or the visitor or the market, I don't necessarily have to change or to infect the customer or the visitor or to change the market. I can simulate a customer, a visitor, or the data collection from the market to send bad information to the data center, and it will process the data and send a wrong order to the actuators, and therefore to the physical factory. I can also, and that's a bit trickier, but I can also do it, I can also target the sensor or the actuator. If I target the sensor and infect the sensor, then I can send the data that I want to the data center. If I target the actuator, then I can impersonate the cyber system or the data center and therefore send wrong order to the actuator, and the actuator will think that it's his data center that is communicating with him. And therefore, I will impact the production or the product or anything that is happening on the physical factory. And finally, if everything is protected and there is only one other option, I can target the data center. Usually it's heavily protected, but if I want to target it, I will try to disturb it. I won't try to penetrate it, but I will try to bring it down in order for you to suffer and to have a huge loss of money. For instance, we can take the example of an industry company, Saint-Gobain, who lost $250 million because they were hacked from the employees. So there were ransomware that went to the employees, went to the data center, spread all over the employees and all over the equipment, and they lost $250 million. So this has a huge cost, and obviously nobody wants to lose $300 million. Yeah. Next one, please. So we don't have smart factory yet. However, we have connected factories. So it's good to study that. And in the connected factory area, it's also good to study the most secure factories, or at least what we suppose is the most secure factories. And this is the nuclear facilities. So we will study three examples of hacked nuclear facility or hacked power station. So as you can see on the graph, this is the frequency of cyber incident at nuclear facility on the global level. And granted, from the 90 to the 2005, there weren't that much attack, but since a few years, it's becoming predominant, and companies have to protect against this because activists and nation states are heavily targeting those nuclear facilities. So this is an example of an attack of the David-Bess factory in the US. And it's a story of bad luck. Bad luck, why? Because this nuclear plant wasn't targeted on purpose. This is a worm, so you have the Slammer. Slammer is a worm that was created in 2003, and the purpose of a worm, of an internet worm, is to spread all over the internet and to infect more and more servers in order for it to be used later. but it's just an infection level. And then it will become a command and control system where you can send order and the server will work accordingly. And it's spread on the internet, exploiting a flaw in Microsoft SQL Server. And basically in a few minutes, so it was launched in 2003, and a few minutes after its launch, it infected 75,000 servers all around the world, including, and that's why it's a bad luck, including the SPDS, so SPDS stands for Safety Parameter Display System of the David-based power station in the US. So basically the display system that is responsible to show that everything is going fine or not in the nuclear station. So if something happens and you cannot see it, then it's a huge problem. As a matter of fact, they were able to penetrate inside the SPDS thanks to an unrestricted connection with a service provider from a third party. So the third party was infected by the SlammerBot, and since the purpose of the SlammerBot is to propagate, it started to go and infected the SPDS. And they were able to do that because the firewall that was protecting the factory were allowing every connection coming from the service provider. It was whitelisted. After that, it infected the SPDS that presented the same flaw, the same vulnerability in Microsoft SQL Server, and naturally, it started to propagate. Luckily for the David-based factory, the firewall blocked the propagation because this time the SPDS wasn't whitelisted, and they had more control. So the ingoing control were not that huge, but the outgoing control were higher. So therefore, the firewall protected that. However, since the propagation of the worm, or the tentative of propagation of the worm, is consuming heavily, is consuming the bandwidth heavily, then employees could not consult the SPDS because all the bandwidth was taken by the propagation of the SlammerBot. Therefore, it's not a denial of service that happened, but the denial of visibility, because the service was still here, but the employees could not see it. Yeah, next one, please. So the previous one was a story of bad luck. This is a story of hacked factory on purpose. So you might have heard about that, Stuxnet. It's a bot that was created, or that we think has been created by Israel and the USA in order to take down centrifuges in Iran. And it remained the most complex and sophisticated malware. Why? Because it used knowledge about how the factory works and what flow there are and how to penetrate it. So what they did is they created this bot, they put it on a USB key. They were able to penetrate inside the factory, inside the nuclear station, and just plug the USB key to a computer, like I did for the presentation. I could have shared a malware. Of course I didn't, but I could have. And then it would have infected the whole network. So the US did that with the station, and the bot is on the computer, the Stuxnet is on the computer, and it will start searching for industrial control system for Siemens. Why from Siemens? Because they knew that Iran was heavily working with Siemens for the rotation speed of their centrifuge. So the Siemens ICS controlled that, and therefore they choose to target this specific part of the factory. The way it works is the computer starts searching for Siemens ICS. Once it finds some, it knows that it's in a good place. So it will update itself on the latest version of the Stuxnet. It won't start the attack right now because maybe there are new vulnerabilities that has been found, and therefore we want to exploit them. So it will update itself, and then once it's updated, it will start to compromise the Siemens ICS. And what it does, it's pretty simple. Go inside, stay silent. It does nothing for 1 month, except recording data. It records a data set that is harmless and present the most trivial data, the most normal data. And then after 1 month, once it has this data set, it will start changing the centrifuge speed, rotation speed of the equipment, of the centrifuge. And at the same time, it will send the data feed, the data set, the correct data set, the harmless data set, to the employees. So from an employee's perspective, everything is fine. Nothing happened. But on the physical world, the centrifuge is going faster and faster and faster and faster, and poof, it explodes in 21 seconds. It takes just 21 seconds to make explode the centrifuge thanks to this bot, and it happened on a great number of nuclear stations in Iran. So this is an example of cyber warfare, but it's from the most powerful, or two of the most powerful countries in the world, Israel and the US. So of course, we would have expected such a complex and sophisticated bot. Now let's look at something created by hacktivists. Earlier I said that hacktivists were presenting a medium to low level of risk, and that, okay, they are growing, but it's not that complicated. They are not that hard to block. Well, in 2016, they've proven otherwise, because they created a bot, a very sophisticated and complex bot, that was able to take down a power station in Ukraine. So not in Iran, but in Ukraine. It's a bit complicated to explain, but basically what it does is it goes on a computer, it opens a few backdoors so to allow them to control everything, and then it will launch, it works in 3 phases. Infection, creation of the backdoor, installation of the new tool, then it launches a DDoS attack, so to take down some of the system. Therefore, the employees start to research what is this DDoS attack and how to mitigate it. So they will concentrate their effort on this one. And the third phase is for the hacker to actually use some of the protocol flow of the SCADA system and the OPC to open the transformer breaker and generate a blackout. But this was a hidden purpose because people were focusing on the DDoS attack and didn't see that the breaker were open from the transformer, and therefore they weren't able to prevent it. So that's why it's in 3 phases, and that's why it is a bit complex. This one is a serious threat because they are capable of attacking any network of European power plants and relays, and they are also able to do this with the US because they only have to change the protocol they use on the red part. They won't use the 104 payload, for instance, they will use something else. And this is the biggest threat against industrial control systems since Stuxnet, so since the previous one that was created by a country or by 2 countries. This one was created by just people like you and me, and maybe not more than how many people we have in this room. It's not that much, in a sense, to create such a bot. Yeah. So, as a conclusion, and if you have one thing to remember from this presentation, just remember the first sentence: absolute security doesn't exist. It just doesn't. It's a dream. No system is secure by default, and whatever the protection you put on your system, it can and will be hacked. All those systems I presented previously were hacked and were protected. The thing is, it's a risk management. When we talk about security, we need to have a risk management approach. We need to cover most of the risk, most of the threat, and for the remaining threat, we need to assume that we cannot protect it, but at least we can try to mitigate it or to alert the employees when it happens. Code decay is also very important because a secure system today, although absolute security doesn't exist, a secure system today doesn't mean that it will always be secure, because vulnerabilities are found and they will be found in every system. Therefore, when there is a patch, always patch the system. If we look at the Slammer bot, they were able to propagate inside the SPDS because they didn't, the employees at the David Best nuclear station didn't patch the system. The patch was available for the last 6 months prior to this, and they didn't do it. Obviously, at some point, they were hacked or they were infected. And then 2 recommendations, and I didn't talk about this one, but you can take this as homework. Adopt the concept of zero trust. So zero trust is a concept where you assume that everyone is an attackant, and even if they are coming from a known devices, you will check whether or not they were infected, and you will only give them access to specific application. And this has to be done on not on an application level, but on a network level, outside your factory or outside your system, because if this part that is giving access is hacked, at least the whole factory is not harmed in any way. This is the same thing for employees and devices, and also you can create proactive protection, because zero trust is a reactive protection. You set something up, and then if we detect something, then we will block it. But we can go further and create a proactive protection by taking some threat intelligence feeds from other sources. Akamai has some feeds, but you have also a lot of other companies that present some threat intelligence feeds that you can use to enhance your security posture and therefore block the attackant before he does an attack. Because if we are just focusing on the attack in itself, an attackant could get in my factory and just do some espionage and just do some spying and do nothing harmless, but just, he will check what is happening. But we will only block the attack, not the attackant. With a proactive protection, we would be able to block the attackant before he can make vulnerability check and see if there are flaws in my system or not. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you very much, sir. Any questions here?
You are saying absolute security doesn't exist.
Yep.
But what is the maximum accuracy that you expect from your system?
So from a secure system, it's very hard to be protected against what you don't know. Obviously, you can be protected 100% against threat that you know, and that's the maximum accuracy, 100% from threat that you know. But threat that doesn't exist right now or doesn't or are not known, it's very hard to be protected, and it's very hard to give an accuracy since we don't have the complete spectrum of attack. But I would say the accuracy should be on the number of researchers you have on your team. And basically, if you have a team of scientific researchers on cybersecurity that will analyze the data feed that you have, the data feed from external sources, then you will be able to detect new patterns that maybe hackers are testing, and therefore you will be able to protect yourself against those new patterns. But it's very hard to give you a number of accuracy.
Right, thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Alexandre, for such a nice presentation. I would like to make a bridge with the topics of the conference, which is the city of tomorrow, and share also some discussion we have together with the public. My question is, like when the people develop with biofuel, one big question, ethic question become, there is maybe a concurrence between food and to food cars or to food people. Here my question is similar. If tomorrow this problem become increasing, what will be the situation in 10, 20 years more? It will be to ensure for people a cyber security or cyber health and safety, because it's an energy cost that can have be given somewhere. We have to find these costs to ensure that. It's necessary, I agree, but what happens for people who doesn't need the cyber security because we use their energy to make factory working?
Okay, so I will give you an example, Akamai example. So Akamai is obviously protecting or trying to protect all those systems, and we are well aware of this problem of energy costs. And obviously, the green sustainability is very important, and therefore, what we do right now, so Akamai right now, we have 2,040 servers. 20% of the platform is covered by renewable energy. We have a solar farm in the US in various areas, and therefore we are growing this number, and we are able to power more and more servers, and therefore the security with renewable energy. So in 20 years, hopefully, 100% of the energy cost will be coming from renewable energy, and therefore that won't be an issue of energy using.
Okay, thank you, Alexandre, for this good presentation. It's true that it's not possible to ensure perfect and global and zero risk security. So my question is simple. Do you think that in the future, maybe in 20, 30 years, 10 years, I don't know, in your company Akamai, I know it, it's a world leader company in this field, do you think it will be possible to imagine a smart cyber security to deal effectively with, indeed, with some unknown attacks? And how do you think that the researcher and the engineer of Akamai will deal with this? Is it possible, or it's just a dream of mine?
Well, if we take the most complex system in the world or in the universe, the human body or the animal kingdom, it has taken approximately 4 billion years to be at this level of evolution. And we have a good immune protection. We are immune against most threats. However, we become sick most of the time. And therefore, our body is sick and has to deal with it. There are some protection inside. But when a new virus comes in, our body doesn't know how to react. And therefore, we need to create vaccine. And those vaccines are created once we know that the virus exists. It will be the same thing for the factories of the future or the smart cities. We will have a set of immune system that will work against most threats. And then once we find a new virus or new modification of the virus, we will need to create vaccines. But that's how it will work, because we cannot have a system that is protecting against something that doesn't exist yet. Yeah. To create those vaccines, yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. This is something that we are starting to do because today Akamai is we see between 15 to 20% of the web traffic, and therefore we see a lot of attack, and we see a lot of tentative of attack and pattern, and therefore we are starting to be able to define vaccine technique in order to better protect system based on new viruses or new way of attacking someone.
Thank you very much. May I now request Vice Principal of MIT School of Engineering, Dr. Virendra Shetty sir, to felicitate Mr. Alexander Darshe for his wonderful presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much. Power Systems Private Limited, and the topic that he's going to talk on is clean fuels, technologies and energy efficiency. Sir has designed and developed kinematic Stirling engine with rhombic drive mechanism of 1.5 kW capacity under the guidance of Dr. Bapat and Dr. Kendre from IIT Bombay. The project was sponsored by MNRE India. The output of the engine could be used for lighting, fans, charging storage batteries, for running small capacity single phase motors for pump and irrigation application in remote areas. He was also a member of product development team of solar thermal concentrator for process heat application in community cooking, laundry and food processing. He's interested in application-driven research, and he has an experience in application integration theory and practice, working from lab to industry scale. Currently, he is involved in solar development work during product development phase to startup phase of business. May I request sir to kindly address the gathering.
Hello, good morning all. So I really apologize for being late. I will not give justification of why I am late, but I would like to share the good news that I am working also with Krishnarya, and it is being incubated by Tata Trust, and that result was finalized yesterday in Delhi. And for that reason, I was in Delhi. So today, next 20-25 minutes, I am going to address on clean technologies and that are more relevant to Asian countries, that is Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India, that is clean technologies, and also South Africa. And I will also briefly give our vision of S2E powers, what will be the future of energy that we are believing in brief. Next, yeah. So, I will talk briefly about, these are not connected subjects. First, I will talk about the clean technology that recently we are developing. That is Annapurna Energy Pod. And second session, I will talk about distributed generation, opportunity, and how the hydrogen economy will be there. So that's next. So vision for Krishnarya Tech, this is a company established in 2015. And our vision is to provide clean cooking that is 24/7/365 solution. And it should be affordable, it should not have any emissions, so indirectly it should not use any fuel, commercial fuel. Next. So why we are working clean cooking, and what is the pain area we are going to solve? First, that the WHO report says that there are more than 5 lakh women and children die due to poor air quality, and that is due to unventilated cooking, right? So the lady that is cooking for 30 minutes to 1 hour daily in morning and evening is like as smoking 240 cigarettes, 24 packs of cigarettes, that is 240 cigarettes per day, that of daily that she is inhaling. And there are problems after 45-50 years to children and that lady, like as eye problems and lung problems. So that issue what we are going to address. Next. So before what we are working on, what is the Indian scenario for this cooking? First, our government, that you can see our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in last 5 years he has provided 7 crore connections of LPG connections to the poor people, right? Subsidized LPG connections. Then what is, so cooking in rural household. At present, I have not considered urban, but now we are focusing on rural, but it is clean technology. For gimmick, you can say the per person, per month, one person in India eat 4 to 5 kg rice. So for next analysis, we have used 4 kg rice per person, per month, one person will eat, and he will take 2 meals. This is important to connect next slides. Then what is available in clean cooking area now, that is induction cooking, induction chulhas, which has 73% efficiency, and its specific consumption for dry rice more than 550 kilocal per kg. So that is what present scenario for cooking. Next slide. So actually, where we are going. So first picture you can see, if you are cooking with biomass, poor designed biomass, chulhas, you are getting the lungs problems. What solution we are providing? Replace that chulhas by LPG. So LPG also giving pollution. So WHO gives 700 ppm, that is the range, and it is 2 to 3 times more what in ventilated, you can say, LPG produces the emission. It is also not 100% clean. So what we are proposing, by using solar PV during day night, can you cook chapati, roti, and also rice dal, right? So here, for product design, we have taken 4-person family who will eat 30 chapatis or rotis of 50 gram. The thickness of chapati will be 1.5 mm, and 250 gram of rice and 250 gram of dal. That is the best load condition for our design. Okay, next. Before that, what in literature, people have also given efficiency that are measured, that we have not measured. This is referred data. So, yeah. So you can say closed chula, it is efficiency 20%. It will consume, to cook 1 kg rice, 2000 kilocalories per kg of rice. Theoretically, 1 kg rice will require 125 kilocal. So it is taking 15 to 20% more than required. So how much inefficient it is. Then case 2 is closed chula B case, that is not ventilated. And case 3 is 3-stone chula. Next. Also, there are high-tech products like as induction chula, which has efficiency 70-73%. It will use electricity. And next is steam cooking, but it is majorly for mass people. So have you seen the Shirdi size temple? So there they cook for more than 10,000 people per day. So that is steam cooking, and it will take 312 kilocal per kg of dry rice. So now these 4-5 scenarios shows that direct flame cooking for rice is not energy efficient. So now my product starts here, our approach starts here. We are differentiating cooking load. One is boiling load, one is roasting load. Roasting load is at more than 200 degrees Celsius temperature. It includes frying, roasting, chapati making or roti. 100 degrees Celsius temperature, that is boiling load. You can make dal, pulses or parallel that. So what can be cooked, or Maggi, that be cooked in pressure cooker or like that. Next. So now what our wish list is, or what type of value we are bringing on the table is we want 24/7, 365 days cooking solution. Its life should be more than 12 years at least. It should be affordable in Indian context. And how we are going to get it? Using solar PV panel. If in monsoon season there is no sufficient solar radiation, it is diffused one, can you charge from grid? If grid is not available for 24 hours, it is available for 2 hours or 1 hour, can you manage it? Can you acquire it? So grid in monsoon, solar PV during non-monsoon season, there is Annapurna energy pod, and the energy goes to home. So before going to our product, I have brought the battery, So we are in our product, we are using sodium nickel chloride, that is NaNiCl2 battery. So this is 100 WH battery, 40 Ah, and maximum volt, that is open circuit voltage, is 2.5 volt. So to get to kWh load, we will use such a 20 batteries. What is beauty of this battery is, it operates at 270 to 350 degrees Celsius. So the ionic conductivity will be maximum at 270 to 350 degrees Celsius, which will enable transition of sodium ion. As sodium ions will transit, there will be charge and there will be electricity. Below than 250 degrees Celsius, now it is charged, but we cannot take it out, electricity out of it, or we cannot charge it also. It will require on the periphery 270 to 350 degrees Celsius temperature. So that was limitation for that technology. These are available since 1999 and used in megawatt scale in Europe. right? And the life cycle is also 4500 cycles, and it can go beyond 12 years. There is no rare earth material. We can dispose it after 12 years or 30 years, 13 years, just crush it and dispose it. Next. So now our proposition is, now it is vacuum insulated. So to get cool, it will require 4 to 5 days. If you are not using it, it is 250 degrees Celsius, you are not charging or discharging it, it will require at least 5 days to cool it due to vacuum insulation. So our first approach was how to take that heat to that heater plate. You can see the topmost is heater plate. So there will be some thermic oil. But this thermic oil and the pump, forced circulation loop, and the carburization of thermic oil, fumes, it is not healthy. So we just dropped down this approach. Because to get that pump in that size and life of 12 years is itself a problem. Next. So now, this is what concept we have made it. So this is 400 watt panel. Normally it will provide you 2 kWh per day. But in prototype we are using 500 watt panel, monocrystalline of, and it is producing 2.8 units per day, 500 watt peak panel. So there is battery, NaNiCl2, such 20 cells, and we are producing phase change material, option 2.1, and heat storing material, like as garnet sand, right? So now you can reduce the battery capacity by increasing the phase change material or heat storing material. So battery cost is comparatively high than heat storage material. So that you can play. Then from this battery, you can take 6, that is load, that is DC cooker. Now I will not recommend rice or dal pulses should made on heater plate at 200 degrees Celsius. It should happen at 100 or 120 degrees Celsius, right? Next. So before going to final product, so small calculations we have done, and I have summarized. There is a lot in detailing we have done inside, but that I cannot produce here. But you can say what are the major assumptions. The system caters cooking cooking during rainy days, early morning 7 a.m. for 30 minutes to 1 hour, and evening 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. It will require C rating. If your discharge should be C by 4, you can instantly cook in 10 minutes, right? Next. So these are the calculations, what sizes we have taken. So for 5 person, if he consumes 3 chapatis of 50 gram per day, he will require about 5648 kilojoule per day per family energy, equivalent energy. This will be required to be heating load, need not to be electrical. Next. Then one more challenge was how we can say chapati is right or roti is right. The puffing phenomena is important, right? So we have also done some experiments. I will, okay, just go next slide. Next slide, next slide. Next. So you can see here, after 200 degrees Celsius surface temperature, roti or you can say chapati will puff. The phenomena is interesting. It has moisture in the 2.5 mm. When sufficient temperature and heat flux is there, that moisture will evaporate and it will flap to folds. Right? So now the temperature is 182.2 degrees Celsius. We can theoretically say it is cooked, but we cannot eat it. Right? So 200 degrees Celsius temperature plus heat flux is the key to get that chapatis. So what we found out, suppose we have to make 15 or 30 at a time. After 12, we are not getting that much temperature. We should have additional resistance heater. So go to back. Yeah. So you can see that 9. From 10 to 9, 10 is the knob. Suppose you are knowing that now you are not getting sufficient temperature I cannot heat now phase change material or my sand now. I am using electricity to the heater plate. So I will make 12 to 15 roti from that power, additional power. Right? Next. So this is the data that rice, one person can eat 85 grams per meal per person. And that is not our analysis. That is with authorized resources for Indian context. And that is also varies from seashore or Chennai to Delhi. That will vary, but this is average one. Next. So this is what initial experimentation we have done. So we have made the one setup that below you can see the lead acid, NaNaCl2 battery. And we have phase change material. And to maintain its biot number, to increase its heat flux, we have used heater rods or mild steel rods in that. So that is hollow from inside. So pipes, these are actually pipes to increase the surface area. And we able to maintain the heat flux. Right? Next. So these are the different types of ceramic garnet sands we have used. We use the composition that if you are using 25 kg garnet sand, 12 kg or 15 kg material pipes, how the configuration will be. Next. So this is proof of concept. We have made many chapatis like this. Next. So now if this product is ready, then how we are addressing it? So scenario 6. So 5th, I think I have deleted. 6th is Annapurna. If you are directly cooking on rice on heater plate, you are requiring heat 950 kilocalorie per kg. But if you are using electrical DC cooker, you are requiring only 400 kilocalorie. So we are also educating how to cook rice, how to cook dal. Don't go for open flame or heater plate. And third is, if you are roasting or that requires high temperature more than 200 degrees Celsius, you go for open flame or heater plate. Right, next. So this is our final product. So this is first prototype. This is second and third you can see. You can see that knob there. So that knob is to maintain the temperature of heater plate. So total weight of the system will be less than 45 kg. 45 kg. And we have made 3, and now we have target is up to March 2020. We will deploy at least 10 at different region. The regions also has been freezed. 3 will be in UP, 3 will be in Nagpur side, and some will be in Mulshi or Pune region. And also on terrace of our company, we are doing some experiments. So that's about clean cooking. And if it succeeds, we can go for community cooking and everything, everywhere. This technology is patented. That's about clean cooking. Any question up to this? Any up to clean cooking related? Yeah.
So you said it is solar based.
Yes.
So how we should generate solar energy and how much is the cost for it?
Yes. Yeah, that is ghost. You go after thank you slide. Thank you slide. Before that, yeah. So this is the what we can say. Now 500 watt peak panel, monocrystalline, with 19 to 20% efficiency, what they claim, we are getting at 9,000 rupees. And if you are purchasing in bulk, it's possible. So total cost will be 55,000 now. But if you get order of more than 1,000, so then material cost comes into picture. For this battery, there is NaCl and nickel powder. And nickel powder is 1% of the cost of battery. So we are looking for 15 to 22,000 in range, final cost of product, and that is looking quite possible. But it will require some volume, more than 1,000. Okay? It includes 22,000 rupees of system, includes 500 watt peak panel also. Yes, yes. So that is one concern that question arises. If you are giving battery backup and anyone want to, suppose there is no electricity, they will watch TV. Why they will make cooking on the battery? Because their other purpose can be served on that. So that issue yet to be addressed. But we are giving for cooking. How they will use that we don't know. But at this stage, we will minimize the battery volume to reduce the cost, and we will use phase change material and so heat storing material such that heating load and electricity load should match. And indirectly, you can operate a 30 watt DC fan or 5 watt, 10 watt DC bulb for 4 to 6 hours with this energy pod. So we are saying Annapurna energy pod. Two types of energy, heating and electricity. Electricity used for electrical appliances, heating for cooking. So it is not only cooking. Yeah, so yes, S2E solutions. So we are working, this company is established in 2011, and they are working in solid oxide fuel cell, and we have supplied 2 units to IOCL, 1 kilowatt and 4 kilowatt. And we are using natural gas as a fuel. Next. So what problem we are addressing? I am not going how fuel cell operates and what is electrolyte anode cathode. I am here just what our vision is. That can be read by any time. So what is conventional energy matrix? So we are making by from thermal power station using coal or any fuel. We are using electricity, we are transmitting and distributing it to the home. Right now, present scenario is have different types of resources. So clean resources, so solar, wind, like that. Or so presently hydro is available from many years. So what future we are looking for? So everyone is speaking for EV. Suppose one EV car uses 5 to 6 units per day, and there are 1 lakh or 2 lakh EVs, we have to be on the road. How much electricity it will require? It is required twice of what your infrastructure, what your grid we have now. So where that electricity will come? And the electricity as an energy, storage is the issue. What your battery, you can say battery capacity and everything. So I just visited yesterday. So Tata Trust has done 10 megawatt hour lithium ion battery backup in 70 CR INR rupees 70 CR for 10 megawatt hour battery backup, and they are saying 4,000 cycles it will work. So that is also at initial level, but the cost range is that much. So what we believe, SOFC product, if you give hydrogen or hydrocarbons, it will produce electricity, right? Whatever reforming, there will be stack, there will be electrochemistry there. What is the beauty of SOFC is, if you provide electricity and you provide steam or H2O, steam FOs, or so it will split and it can produce hydrogen. If liquid hydrogen or hydrogen hydrides are there, you can transport it. So that we are looking for. So SOFC electrolyzers will make hydrogen. That hydrogen can be transported, and it can be microgrid type distribution can happen. So we are working in electrolysis and fuel cell power generation. So till now we have supplied 2 systems. Next. So these are our product range that we are making our fuel cell for home applications. That its efficiency, do you know about fuel? Its efficiency is high. It do not produce any NOx. It do not produce any SO2 or sulfur pollutant. It produces somewhat CO2, but per kilowatt it is 4 to 5 times less than IC engine. So so we call it as a clean source, clean technology. So that are the 4 products we can say. For EV charging infrastructure also, you use hydrocarbons, you reform it. And what we believe diesel is not bad. Whatever it is said, if we do not emit emissions, it is good. So we are also working on diesel, it's reforming, how we can make hydrocarbons and how it will not make pollutions, right? Next. And for me, so challenging issue, this is my concluding slide. So what I feel at this stage, after learning steam engineering, solar concentrator, solar PV, where the world is heading. So the one problem for Indian context is there are many refineries, they are using flare gas as an outlet. You can see that flame outside when you're traveling from Mumbai, Pune road also. That flare gas has a rich in hydrocarbons. But there is no technology that recover, if there is hydrocarbon, it is burning, electricity can be covered up. So we are seeing 2 options, that a solid oxide fuel cell and Stirling engine. So solid oxide fuel cell, but solid oxide fuel has a limitation. You want that oxygen to carbon ratio, it limited oxygen to carbon ratio. To get that, you should know the uncertainty in the fuel variation. But here CH4, C2H6, C3H8, the variation will change. So oxygen to carbon ratio after reforming will change, and it will change the performance of SOFC. So, and we have declared that zero routine flaring by 2030 initiative. So what will be the solution for this? In which way we can tackle? I can see only 2 options now, SOFC and Stirling engine. People are looking for gas turbine or steam turbine. Does it make, what is the weight, what is the cost? That are the issues. So, thank you.
Any questions here from the audience? Right, there is one.
Hello sir, my name is Varun Yadav, and I just had a question regarding fuel cells. So the limitation of fuel cell is transport and storage of hydrogen, because hydrogen is the lightest element and it can penetrate through metals also. So how are you tackling that?
Yeah, that is you are absolutely right. There are 2 types of fuel cell. One is PEM fuel cell, we can say proton exchange fuel cell, and second is solid oxide fuel cell. For proton or PEM fuel cell, it requires 99.99% pure hydrogen, right? And it is low operating, it operates at low temperature. But we are in the field of SOFC, solid oxide fuel cell. It operates in between 650 to 850 degrees Celsius. Here, we want hydrogen and CO. So hydrocarbons are mandatory. Rather CO, their membrane, it will oxidize. But here acting as a increasing efficiency parameter. So SOFC technology not only requires hydrogen, it requires hydrogen plus CO. And that we can get from any hydrocarbons. So biomass, biogas, LPG, CNG or anything. Before that there is part reformer. So the reformer might change for liquid and gaseous. Okay, and I am since not old in this field, since working since 14-15 months in solid oxide fuel cell, and that much PEM fuel cell I am not exposed to that you have read. So it might be true. Yeah, hydrogen issues are there. Yeah,
Right. No other questions? There is one and the last question.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. You are looking for emission zero environment, and that is a great thing. The question is, in your second session, you were talking about hydrogen. So dealing with hydrogen, being an engineer, my question is related to that.
Yeah. So
And yes, you can continue.
So you complete your question? Yeah,
Yeah.
hydrogen. Yeah.
So the question is related to hydrogen. We are dealing with hydrogen. So is it impacting on the system, what we are going to develop or what your company is going to develop? So the question is related to that. Is it going to impact? Because dealing with hydrogen is always,
So I will share the facts that I worked in Stirling engine. We have tested our engine on helium, on hydrogen. On air, it do not work. We have designed for helium. We put air in that. So there is myths. If you have safety criteria, now there are composite materials, how you are maintain, what is the volume, what is the pressure, and you are not making huge containers like that. So people have proved, and there are systems inbuilt running since 7-8 years. That data you can get from website also. But at this stage, I can comment. We have produced hydrogen now by SOEC system, electrolysis system. Now storing what hydrides will come, that we have knowledge, that expertise we have. But to make a commercial product and to say it is safe and like that, so we are also in midway to comment like that. But I cannot say this platform that there is issues are well solved. Rather, I am also new in that aspects to comment anything on that. Because I am mechanical engineer, less 15-16 months I am working this hydrogen and chemical reactions are like that. That's
Right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for this experiment-based presentation. It was a nice presentation. May I now request Dr. Sunil Dingre, the head of aerospace engineering, to felicitate Dr. Dada Saheb Shendge, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, soon after this presentation, we have this panel discussion on sustainable development goals, and all the guests are here. So let us welcome all these guests with a round of applause. Right, so we have Dr. Mohit Dubey, the CEO of AIC MIT ADT Incubator Forum. May I request sir to please take the seat on the dais. We also have Mr. Manojit Bose. Oh, I see. Okay. Mr. Nikhil Malhotra, Global Head and Innovation at Tech Mahindra. Welcome, sir. Mr. Manish Mehta, Vice President and Global Delivery Executive of Cape Gemini, Pune. Dr. Moumen Da Sherif, Director of ECAM IPMI, France. Dr. M.L. Ganovi from Université de Lorraine, France. I would like to request the guests to take the seats on the stage. May I now request Dubey sir to start the panel discussion.
Hi, very good morning to all of you. I looking at the audience, the number of audience, looks like it is indeed day 3, but I think it's still a first session in day 3, right? So Anyway, first of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the organizing committee of this international conference on energy and the city of future. At the same time, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my co-panelists, and also on my left side are the co-chairs of this conference, my friends from France, Professor Dar Sharif from ICAM EMPI, and Professor Ganauni from France, from University of Lorraine. And on my right side, so that's for your easier remembrance. On my left is the academic hotbed from France. Let me use that word. This is academic heavy left-hand side, but on the right side we have the corporate heavyweight. On my immediate right I have Mr. Nikhil Malhotra from Tech Mahindra. He's the global innovation head, and to my extreme right we have Mr. Manish Mehta, who comes from Capgemini, and that is also a French corporate, French company. So as we can see that we have a right mix of corporate from France, from India, and my name is Dr. Mohit Dubey, and I had a small shop in the corner of this campus called Atal Incubation Center. This is a new attempt from the government of India to create companies to promote innovation and entrepreneurship in the country. And this is a new pioneering attempt. So we have a little bit of governmental element brought into this whole discussion. So before I set the context of this whole theme and session, I would like to welcome all of my co-panelists, learned co-panelists, with a huge round of applause, please. The way we kind of thought about is that I'll throw open a few questions, I'll set the context, and then maybe we can weigh in with opinions or options, your thought processes from different elements, from academia, from companies of India, and me as an incubator player. I'll switch between these two hats of being a moderator as well as a person who heads an incubator, which is a new setup in this country. To set the context, I think all of us wake up to a news which the world was waiting, right? And finally, it has been decided that President Trump is going to be impeached. So that's one end of the world. If you move on to the right side of the world map, UK again got back to the Brexit. They again elected Brexit, which we all heard from Professor Livermore on the opening day, how it's going to impact. Yellow Vest in France has been disturbing all throughout 2019. If you look at the Hong Kong, that was kind of disturbing. If you look at India today, that's kind of very disturbing. Amidst all these disturbance that happens, I think we also understand that there is some common thread that binds all of us. And that common thread is that we share the same nest, as someone was mentioning on the opening day. It's the same resources of the earth that we are sharing. So there still is a need, no matter what the politicians of various countries decide, there is still a need to bind together the humanity, the cause for staying together, to work together, to build this new world order, wherein the academia, the corporate, the governments can work together, create an equitable society, and let people of their respective countries live with dignity and in a better condition. I think having said that as a context, I would like to throw open from my left, because you come from a hardcore research-oriented background, and you did mention that you are a Greek person. So I'd like to hear from you, how do you see, and what I would request also from each of these co-panelists is that they can introduce themselves, a bit about what work they have been engaged into, and maybe weigh in their opinion, options about how do they think the role of their organization about building this innovation and entrepreneurial culture in the society as a whole. You know, take, I think microphone is working. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Professor, for that such excellent initiative. I think the real additional value to what we are doing is not only science. We are supposed to be good scientists, good solver for equation, good analyst for physics, and to how to interpret the physics. But the real additional value is the human value. For that, as you see about Oriental, I am telling about Oriental, Arabic, Indian, etc. It's Oriental country or the South country. The philosophy is to make together in the equation the human and the knowledge. And I think it's a good philosophy for all the humanity. When listening to you, I just thinking about a philosopher who is Spanish and Moroccan at the same time. His name is Averroes. And I invite everybody to look on the website what's Averroes' life, etc. Because he was at the same time inside Christianism, Judaism, Islam, and at the same time thinking how to make together things for the humanity. He was philosopher, he was some mathematician or something. And he said something very interesting that I would like to start with that. He said, in French, is l'ignorance mène à la peur mène à la haine conduit à la violence. In Arabic, الجهل يؤدي إلى الخوف يؤدي إلى العنف وهذه المعادلة. In English is the ignorance can conduct to the quiet from others, can conduct to higher others, and this is the equation. So the ignorance is our enemy. We have to be careful to the ignorance. For myself, because you invited us to can maybe take first point as our own experience to discuss and to exchange with us. With my colleague and friends, Professor Darsharif, we share this philosophy to when we run international conference like EVF. EVF is energy and city. City is village. Also, village means maybe in Indian I learned that village is ville is village. And this is some inversion between the city and the small city. But it is good. Energy and something where human is living and the future. Also, we are involved in another conference, which is International Conference Materials and Energy. And the philosophy for the two conferences is to put before, after a school for PhD students, master students, etc., to share with them what is the equation of the knowledge when we start, when we finish. And personally, I animate a conference regularly, which is named Cauchemar in Doctorate. This is Cauchemar on Doctorate to avoid the real Cauchemar in Doctorate. You have to have a better Doctorate, how to use all the experience of your life, because the Doctorate or the PhD thesis in our country, especially in the South. In the North, maybe you can share or not my opinion, in the North became a diploma like all diploma. That's a pity, because in places like Imperial College, other places, doctorate is a doctorate. The doctorate is a summum of the knowledge, because you become you switch from quantified science to philosophy of science, how to use science of your life and to a better life for other person around you. Then this sharing with the young person come from our experience. Sometimes you leave your country for young people. You go many thousands of kilometers away to look for this knowledge. You are dreaming with some people who are writing book, writing paper, and you can meet them. You can say hello to them. It's fantastic. It's the dream for any young student. Very nice in his job. Then my experience came from Morocco. I'm born in Morocco, on the north of Africa, Gauss front, less than 20 years, and started my PhD thesis in a city named Marseille. Marseille is like universal city because it's a city shared by Mediterranean people, etc. My PhD thesis, essentially I was very attracted and excited by mathematics. But after I understand that mathematics, you can just write equation, solve equation, and stay at home. This is general for any mathematician in the world. I chosen fluid mechanics because with fluid mechanics, for me, it's with the possibility for traveling, making other people with equation and with solving equation. I especially chosen fluid mechanics with a numerical simulation. Then I can work with fluid mechanics, application, and mathematics. And after this experience, I have 10-year experience in material science, high temperature in the center, in the Balkan France, in the city named Limoges. And after I finished full professor and heading a lab in the north of France, in the frontier between Luxembourg, Germany, Belgium, France, and now it was energy efficiency in building. I have the chance to share that with a lot of students, more than 30 PhD students work with me with various area, and it is very rich area. And why I said that? I said that small experience, that modest experience with me, because what we are looking, our riches or our richness or our real fortune is what others bring to us. We learn with everybody. We learn with students. Students learn with us. We learn with students. But the game have to be the game, not the game changing a rule during the... Today, the technology of information and communication changed a lot of things. As I said in the opening of this conference, I would like to say that because I am convinced with that, the memory and the history is important for any future, any city of the future. You lose that, you compromise your future. The education is very, very important. Without education, also you compromise the future because you lose the present. The abstraction, if you lose abstraction, you lose immediately the future. The abstraction is our job, and I would like today to give more and discuss more about the link between innovation, abstraction, how people can... I finish with that, but to be not so long. Sometimes people are not good in school, but when they came to PhD thesis, they became wonderful. Why? Because they use all the round facet of his personality, their education, their possibility to make relationship with others and become good. Sometimes some students are very good at school, but very bad at PhD thesis. So the PhD thesis at this period of 3 years, 3 to 4 years, depending on the country, to work on research, innovation, relationship with others, discussion, learning other language, traveling, very, very important to travel. For that, people can use their potential inside innovation to become more and more performant. So for that, it's very important to discuss today from this point of view, from this experience, and to share with you the discussion coming. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Professor Ganoli, for wonderful insights into, because as we look back the Indian thought process, the value system of treating this world as one community, and that's called the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? You brought that whole element of getting different viewpoints, different personalities coming together and staying together. Now that leads to that leads to something which is very close to Professor Darsharif's area of how do you look towards building these human value system? How do you convert these new young students on the block and the university campuses? And most of it starts from the university campuses when they actually go out into the world order. How do you train those minds to solve the problems which are for the world to be solved?
Thank you, Dr. Moit, for your invitation. First of all, I want to thank you for this invitation and to say you that I am very happy to be here with you to discuss about such important subject, the sustainable development and impact of this on our life and the life of our children. But at first, as you're required, I will introduce myself. Donc, my name is Moumandar Sharif. I am the CEO of ECAME PMI. It's a French graduate school leading to the master degree. I'm also vice president of the University of Paris-Seine, in charge of student life. I am a member of the council board of the Catholic University of Paris and permanent researcher at Quartz Laboratory. And at least I am also senior member of IEEE. So, effectively, indeed, the question is very relevant, and the link between education, research, entrepreneurship, and the sustainable development is serious and very important. So, first of all, I have to say that the sustainable development is a major concern of all economic, social, political, and scientific actors in the world. It's a complex concept. It's not easy to deal with it. Socially, the sustainable development is a transgeneration problem. It affects our future, but also the future of our children. So when we deal with this, we have to keep in mind that we have to find solution in long-term duration and in sustainable way. Mathematically, sustainable development is a multi-variable problem. We can approach it in different way, and we can provide varied solution. As required, I'm going to deal with this and to give my opinion, my point of view as a teacher and the CEO of a graduate school in France. So in my opinion, facing to sustainable development challenges and issues, we need to act on 4 levels. The first one, very important, is to set up a new, fair, global order, fighting disparities between countries and between populations. The sustainability is impossible if it's not equitable and responsible. We need to work together, to build together, and to prepare a better future together. We share the same planet, the same sky, the same sun. There is no south, no north in reality. The second lever is to ensure perfect control of human resource, especially energy, food, and water. The third one is to promote innovation, research, and entrepreneurship. And the last one is to educate the younger generation. This last lever is fundamental. Why? It's simple. The decision makers of tomorrow are our current students. We have to prepare them. We have to learn them how to think globally when acting locally. We must learn them how to deal with the complexity, how to put human inside their design and their conception. So we might prepare them now. We have no time to lose. To do this, we need first to adapt the content and the philosophy of our training. We need to connect more and more our universities to make links between the North universities, the South universities, to promote the mobility of students. It's very important. In fact, we need to break boundaries of the knowledge. No frontier, no boundary when we speak about knowledge about universities. That is a big business. I think it's easy to say, but difficult to do. But we must do it. So, to be concrete, and if you permit me, I will give you some data concerning France and the French education systems. So, just some data. We have in France more than 3 million students. Maybe it's not big comparatively to India, but 3 millions means more, not almost 5% of the global population of France. That's the number of the students in the universities and what we call in French grande école, the graduate school. We have almost 70 universities. In the 10 or 15 years, we had more than 70 universities, but now with the fusion, with the merging of universities, we have less. But we have 70 big universities now. We have around 300 engineering and business schools leading to the master's degree. And we have more than 4,000 high schools with 3 sections, typical section. General 1, scientific and all, technical section and professional section. Actually more than 20% of the French graduate school, both energy and business school, prepare their students to deal with the problematic of ecology and energy transition. That's good, but not enough. We have to do more. French high schools are more committed to this problematic, into sustainable development. Just to give you an idea, the most important technical section in high school in France is called STI 2D. STI 2D. STI like science and technology for industry. And 2D means développement durable. DD, développement durable, which means sustainable development in English. So it gives you an idea of the committed of our ministry in this concerning this problem. At ICAME Permis, the graduate school I have the chance and the privilege to manage, more than 30% of our master's school are directly oriented towards sustainable development, especially toward energy transition, smart industry or green industry, and green technologies. We have also a full master degree specially dedicated to energy and materials of tomorrow. So this, I hope, gives you an idea of what we do in France and our sensibility to make link between our graduate school and the schools and the universities around the world, and especially in the South, because I am sure that we need to make these links to promote the knowledge and to make some bridges and to have a win-win collaboration. I just give you another data. In France, we train approximately 38,000 engineers per year. But in reality, we need more than 45,000 engineers. Our industry needs more engineers than what we produced. How to increase the number of engineers in France? The high school students are not enough. And they not typically, in France, les grandes écoles, the graduate school, are, we use a lot of mathematics in our studies. So for young people, it's not very attractive. So they prefer other sections, other ways to in universities, in business school. So we have a problem. Our industry needs more engineers, and we are not able to produce more. So we must to make links with some countries like you. India is a perfect country for us. It's why we have an MOU with MIT IDT till 1 year. And my hope is to find the way to permit to some of your students to come in France to take 1-2 years course and to, and finally, to have a double diploma. A diploma, your diploma, of course, and the degree of engineer, that's a European degree. And after that, we can give to our industry sufficient engineer and the very qualified students. So I tell it to the young generation, young students. Probably some of them are here. So if you like France, if you want to have a double diploma, you will be welcome.
Thank you from bringing that engineers deficit country to engineers oversupplied country. And as you rightly pointed out, that breaking the boundaries of knowledge is a big business. And you also alluded towards the global approach, which is about looking at what are the global challenges, but still acting locally, because it'll add up. It's not something that if I'm trying to solve a problem of France, it's going to solve my problem back home. So you may learn from the global best practices, but you still need to implement a lot of those learnings in the local context, right? And just to put some numbers in those perspective that you mentioned, against your 70 universities, India has around 900 universities, and we have, besides these 900 universities, we have around 40,000 colleges. Against your 2 million total, we have around 8 million students every year graduating from this whole network of institutions. With regards to high school, we have around 1.5 million high schools in this country. So if you talk about the numbers, and we just mentioned about that, there is a deficit of manpower there, as far as the numbers who are graduating from these high schools and diploma programs and some of these other higher education institutions. We have this whole problem of what to do with these numbers, right? Because you can't give job to 8 million people every year. No matter how many industries you bring them up, you still find yourself on the wrong side of the end, that you still don't create those many jobs. And as I started that, the world order is going into a lot of turmoil, and there are a lot of issues globally. So what do you do with this whole output of academic institutions in huge numbers? And that brings me to, draw in Mr. Nikhil, because he heads one of the leading companies in India, Tech Mahindra, which is actually from software to trucks to bikes and whatnot. How do you actually see that innovation is being kind of over-abused, if not appropriately used word these days? How do you relate these young generation, which is really looking for a global role? How do you get that mindset of this young generation to, one, start thinking locally, and creating products and services which could be beneficial for the world order.
Thank you, Mohit. Before you gave the data, I was about to say we have enough of engineers to ship across. So shipping of engineers becomes an industry for us as well. But I think thank you so much. And I rolled up my sleeves because I was expecting your questions to be a barrage of volley, but I think this is a good question which we can answer. Just as an introduction of what I do, I globally head the innovation sector in Tech Mahindra, but been part of this industry for the last 20, 25 years. And was also the founder and creator of something called Makers Lab. If you can Google it, Makers Lab Tech Mahindra, you would find a lot of things that we are doing. Professor talked about the research in academia. We essentially try and apply that practical research back in terms of how we can affect lives, not just for our associates that we do or we deal with in the company, but also with the companies that we connect with, businesses, as well as the society in some format or the other. So 6 major areas that my lab deals with, and there are about 11 in the world, which are working with customers, with research institutes, etc. One of them being machine learning and AI, buzzword. I think a lot of people probably use it, but what we do is we try and go towards the algorithmic side. And we are researching as we speak with ICER in Pune on neuroscience-inspired AI. So how does the brain really think about when you're essentially talking about AI? A human child can distinguish between a cat and a dog picture in less than 5 seconds, whereas it takes a machine about 1 million images, as well as about 100 kilowatts of power to do that. There is something amiss where we are essentially not taking in the machine that was built and kept inside this cranium and trying to put more mathematics and algorithms around it. I think that's one of our approaches. The second area is we do build our own robots. We have a lot of IoT practices. We also do a lot of work on quantum computing, which is essentially going to be the first, we are probably the first to essentially set up a photonic line in England between Cambridge and Adderstall Park, where a video was transcribed quantumly and sent across, making it virtually unhackable in the universe because of the quantum factors. I have professional gamers in the team as well, whose one of the work is essentially to play esports as a game because it's a big industry. But I think on the other hand, they also help us do a lot of gamification for enterprise as well. So these are some core research areas that we work with. What is our purpose? And I think I'll be a little different from what the professor said. I think the academics today, or the education today, does not start in the university. It does not even start at high school. It starts at about 5 years of age. And I realized how non-digital I was when my little kid went up to the TV screen and started swiping. So I said, this generation is probably tuned to a different extent. We are analogs who are trying to be digital and trying to solve this problem. Whereas this younger crowd is born digital, is already changed its DNA. And maybe we are trying to cope up with their premise, and we are trying to build in all of these structures together. So what we do as part of it, and you talked about younger crowd, is we essentially do a lot of kidathons in the lab. Kids from 6 years to about 14 years come in, work with our technology, and see what more can be done. And we found some great ideas about them. But technology is not just about the well-endowed, as we speak about within this university and this premise. Technology really starts from even the non-well-endowed today because of the speed at which technology and infrastructure is growing. I've got a 9th standard kid from Bangalore, runs 3 startups, is worth $1 million and doesn't have a signing authority on the check. And we mentor him, right? So that is where education is starting out. And that's where change is starting. In another sector, we are also looking at that inclusivity of the whole human workforce. Maybe a different angle where we probably look at for solving some of these challenges from the world. And when I talk about inclusivity, I'm also talking about neurodiverse groups and individuals. So just to recount a fact, we had a student from SIT, Symbiosis, who's a college in Pune, who was neurodiverse and he was borderline autistic. And the guy would not talk to you while looking straight into your eyes. He would look down. And if you talk to him in a different tongue, he would probably run away crying. So we had to change ourselves, essentially, to deal with such kids. But when given a task, I told him, why don't you make a game because you love games? This kid creates a 300-pager or 300-screen RPG or a role-playing game, which typically takes a community of developers 10 to 15 months. So these neurodiverse kids are probably thinking a little different. So we found out that there is another way in which we could tap into talent, right? If I have to give you a mantra, I don't probably have mantras for success, but I think what we follow, I can definitely tell you. We follow a word called courage. within the Makers Lab as well as within the organization. And I think courage, is word which means probably strength, and you've got strength and willpower. We really break that word of courage into the componentized forms. The number C, or the word C or alphabet C, says collaboration. Collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. Today we collaborate in our research on Sanskrit transliteration with some of the gurus and pandits who are teaching us Sanskrit, to some of our research institutes like Queensland Brain Institute, MIT. As I speak, there are about 15 odd kids working in the Makers Lab doing all of this research for us as well, from this university. The O is essentially objectification of technology. It cannot be only academic. You cannot solve the world's problem by only academics and theories. It has to be in an agile format where the technology has to be objectified as well. It has to be brought into lives. It has to be touched, felt, and then given a reaction whether this is right or not. And this is something which we've proven in the industry through Apple and Apple iPhones as well. It was the first iPhone that you call about 3G was nothing. It was essentially a take on basically the screen that you were giving it, but really it improved over a period of time. The you that we call is basically you are the maker. So it really starts from you. By thinking that I've got a problem to solve, however small or large the problem might be. The R we essentially talk about saying is rewiring your own psyche. What we feel is this organ keeps pumping blood 24 hours inadvertently and keeps your life right. But it's this organ that keeps a constant rewiring. And that is something that you probably want to do in the R part. The A part is sometimes silly, but we probably say that ask stupid questions every day. And these are perceivably stupid questions. The reason for that we do within the lab and within the structure of innovation is when you ask these questions, there is a simplification that comes in from them. The more questions that you ask, however stupid they might be, they might like to simplify a specific topic. And that's why it's very essential for me in the lab, in all the labs that we run, you have to ask a stupid question every day. And that has become a principle, but now people essentially raise their hand and say, hang on, sir, I'm asking a stupid question. I say, don't worry about it, we won't consider it stupid. But you have to ask that, right? The G is essentially goals that we're looking at, whether it's working for the visually deprived sectors, where we are challenging Braille today with our own keyboard, or looking at Sanskrit as a transliteration language. We have certain goals in mind that we want to do for society as well as for our own businesses. The E is empathizing with your own ego. The reason for that is it's very easy to say and state that empathize with the world, empathize with the next population, empathize with your customers. It's very important to empathize first with your ego. It's one of those statements that you hear in the plane saying that if there is a low pressure area, these masks would drop down. You have to first put on your own mask before you put it on to a kid. The reason for that is for an innovator to succeed, there are numerous potholes where he might fall into. If he or she doesn't empathize with their own ego, there's no innovation. And I think that is the experiential education that we want to do within the organized as well as unorganized sector before we essentially start putting in academics behind it, right? And that's what I probably end on. I have more stories to probably share. Thank you.
Great, Nikhil.
Just to say, I am very happy to learn you. You know Confucius. I'd say one day, if you ask a stupid question, you will be a stupid man, stupid student for 1 minute or equivalent. If you don't ask a question, you will be stupid man all the rest of your life.
Great. And I think I just got reminded of Benjamin Franklin when he said that, tell me something and I may forget. Teach me something I may understand. But engage me and I'll give you back the solutions, kind of thing. And also you touched upon the great courage part of it, the philosophy that you follow. One thing you specifically mentioned about the stupidity of the questions that are being asked. Unfortunately, I got reminded of Professor Helfand, who was at the Harvard University. And then he actually went to Canada, and he created a university called Quest University in Canada. Right? And the whole philosophy, while he explains how the Quest University was formed, was that he make a point that in the first year of your undergraduate colleges, you will get students who are jumping out of their seats and asking questions, right? But as they move to second year, third year, and final year, you actually put a lot of silos, a lot of blocks around their thinking that they stop asking questions.
No, you're absolutely right. I think these are things that we are seeing from a childlike curiosity, even in our children.
Sure.
So I was driving a car and my son was sitting behind. He's about 6 years old. He says, "Dad, when will I get a license?" I said, "Maybe never." He says, "You're being stupid." I said, "No, I'm not being. I've got a value to it, right? So by the time you grow up in another 13 years, we would probably have autonomous driving, right? Or maybe some taxis that is running in, not in India, but somewhere else wherever you're studying." So he could quite buy it.
Yeah.
But I think his question was right. He
Absolutely.
was trying to question, when will I get to experience all of this?
Sure.
And I think that childlike curiosity needs to be built in right from high schools itself, or maybe
Right.
in junior schools, because we're seeing a lot of this structure coming up from kids, right?
Yeah, no, and that's why the character of Curious George is so important, that we need to keep that Curious George alive in all ourselves. Otherwise, you'll stop asking questions. Before even we say the question is good or a bad or a stupid question, if you don't ask question, I mean, that you're killing yourself, right? And I think within the same hall, we had Mr. Ramanan, who heads the Atal Innovation Mission for the country. He was at the same dais and he spoke about these barriers in our education system, which actually creates, it stifles our thinking when we create these rule-based knowledge system. And that's where this, the point that you made, that you bring in 6-year-old kids to your labs and then allow them to experiment, allow them to fail early. And this whole attempt of Government of India, which is called Atal Tinkering Labs. And in fact, we mentored 3 of those top 50 innovators in the country who belong to grade 6 to grade 12. And 2 of those kids recently went to Russia for a joint 25 students from India and 25 students from Russia. They had a full, I think it was week training or more than week training on robotics and drone, where both the kids of both the countries were coming together to learn these things and to break a lot of things. So I think that the point of allowing these kids to fail early in a very controlled environment, at the same time mentoring them, is pretty essential to your point. So thank you for sharing those ideas. And now again, I go over to this next level, because we all are talking about changing a lot of things, innovation and startup culture, whereas there are some established players in the society which have kind of made the world order till date, which are called the business giants or the big organizations of the world, and Capgemini is one of them. And coming from the French origin, how do you see the role of such mega giant players, the corporate partners, in hand-holding these young students, training these young kids globally? Because we're talking about the global world order that we want to set with this younger generation. And Capgemini, coming from France, ruling over the world, becoming one of the biggies in India. What has been experience like, and how do you take that forward when you want to replicate some of that elements in India?
Thank you, Dr. Dubey. Some of you may be aware of me. I was here when the ADT Atal Innovation Mission was launched in MIT. My name is Manish Mehta. I am Global Delivery Exec for Capgemini, based out of Pune, though I had been all over the world. Now I'm based out of Pune. Before we move to the actual collaboration between corporate and academic, I just wanted to share a couple of anecdotes that I had experienced recently. I think last 20 years had been a disastrous years for the world, because the environmental challenges that we have been seeing in last 20 years is just amazing. And I shouldn't be saying this in Capgemini, by the way, but invent of technology, which is what you are associated with, something like this phone, and laptops and desktops and machines, has been disastrous for us. If you look at it, we have 10 billion phones in the world which are active today, which is 25% more than the world population. Okay, and some of the people in the world do not even have phones. So just imagine, quite a few of us are holding 2 or 3 phones with us, right? We have 3 billion desktops or laptops which are active today. 3 billion. And you can't imagine the number of servers which are like energy consuming devices sitting behind, which you don't even see actually. You don't even see them. But every time you send an email, you do a WhatsApp, you access Facebook, you open your phone and connect Google, there is a server which is getting active, consuming energy and giving you the information. Okay. Humongous amount of hardware which has gone into creating these systems, right? Very simply, if you charge your phones every day, I guess, right? All of you do charge your phones every day. If by some means you save 10% of that energy while charging your phone, some mechanisms, okay? You will be able to light up New York City for the whole year. Just phones, a simple device which you can't even think of twice before you charge it or you keep it on and you do something for a long time, right? This what we call in Capgemini, 10% improvement, what we call in Capgemini and all the IT companies is performance improvement. We call it efficiency. We think that it's actually a money-saving instrument for the corporates who are running this. Like, for example, if you reduce 10% energy consumption in WhatsApp, I'm pretty sure it is going to reduce energy consumption in your phone and the servers to a great extent. We work with our clients on those energy-saving projects, but actually, in a way, it's to create a better world tomorrow. It's actually a sustainable mechanism for us. So we have obviously labs which takes care of a lot of these efficiencies, but I think one of the major factors which has deteriorated the climate in last 20 years has to be corrected to a certain extent. I'll give you a second anecdote which happened very recently with me. I was talking to a local builder in Pune. And those of you who are aware of, quite a few of you, not you guys, but quite a few of the people who are aware of the building construction activity in India, you know what kind of climate changes does it bring. It's irreversible, actually. If you build a campus, it's irreversible. All the waste that gets generated in the campus, in the building societies, somebody has to take care of disposing them off and stuff like that. Pune people, you might be aware of the challenges that we are facing for garbage throwing out and the nuisance that it has created, right? So this person is a young developer. He is hardly 35, and he has been in this business only for 10 years, not more, actually, just 10 years. He is a young person who has started his own business and then started the building activities. He is an engineer, and he is trying to create the world's first carbon neutral township. Now we have talked about LED platinum certification buildings, we have talked about gold certified buildings, but he's trying to create world's first carbon neutral township in Pune. Trying, remember guys, this is not that he's going to do that. He has a vision which says that he's going to create this. Now obviously, a lot of people in the builders community will say you are stupid, right? Because you can't do that. You need to have some mechanisms to throw out your garbage, throw out your waste, whatever waste it is, right? But he's trying to do that. And he's trying to do that with the help of his collaboration with some of the universities in southern region of India. This is the anecdote I wanted to tell you because, first of all, he had a stupid idea in his mind. He wanted to do that. And he can't do that alone because he is an executionist, not a researcher. And that's where he's getting the researchers from the universities and the colleges that he's associated with to give him the ideas, give him the solution that will make him achieve this goal. This brings to what we do in the corporate sector as far as the connections are concerned. We are executionists, to be very frank with you. Capgemini has got 220,000 people across the world. And out of 225,000 people, 219,900 people would be executionists. 100 people will be researchers. Yes, we have researchers in the team. 100 of them are researchers, right? If you want to do something new, if you want to do something drastically different, if you want to do something different for society, for us, for our clients, we definitely need a connection with the researchers who may or may not be within our organization. And that's where we collaborate with various innovation hubs in the country, in the world. So we have something called Applied Innovation Exchange across the world. The biggest one is in San Francisco, but there is one in India as well, in Mumbai. That's where we bring, and obviously, we are a corporate, right? So we do everything for money. Obviously, money has to be involved. So what we try to do is to bring various startups, innovative companies, niche players, whatever you call them, and try to build a solution which is going to be beneficial for our clients, okay? Because our clients are also large corporates, to be frank with you, and they are the ones who are also looking for new ideas. And we create a platform for the two parties to meet where because if you look at it, new entities which are coming into the market may have great ideas, stupid ideas, which has been generated, which has been, practically they have been put into the ground, but they don't have the scale. And we try to bring that scale. We bring that scale for them, right? So 2 challenges for you, Dr. Dubey. One, how does your innovation lab, your university collaborates with the corporates like us, which is, you generate the ideas and we bring the scale. That's something that we have already started working on it. The second is, in India, there is a lot of emphasis given on sustainable focused startups. We call them social entrepreneurship, or we call them NGOs to a certain extent. The question is, how do you bring to the mainstream? They're still considered as NGOs. They're still considered as non-profit making companies. They're still considered as organizations which do not need to have a financial profit at the end of the day. But how do you bring it to the main scale so that they are also considered as one of the focus areas for industries like normal industries and big corporates like us?
No, I'm glad you brought that point up, because there are social organizations which claim to be non-profit and still making huge profits, and they are called political parties. Every political party is actually a social reformer, and they don't say that we are profit makers. They're social sounding boards. Yes, right. You rightly pointed out. So I think the new, and also you mentioned that as corporates, you're always in a mode of show me the money and then we'll bring something on. If we try to combine those two, what is the government of India is trying to do, that being 1.25 billion people, we want to create social innovation, social companies, which are for profit. It's not crime to make money, I guess. It's only the color of money, the way you are making that money. If you are able to make money by impacting the lives, it's all about price into volume, right? You can have a higher price but a lower volume to get that whole TCV as a total contract value. But if you can reduce the price by innovation, by a lot of technology, by a lot of research, and you can still create a lot of impact in terms of you still end up getting the same TCV.
If I may add one point.
Sure. Please go ahead.
I think if I may add one point, I think we're all talking about climate sustainability. We're talking about the numbers in India.
Sure.
I think there are 2 things that we've got to figure out. What's the lowest rung doing today within the Indian sector?
Right.
And we cannot talk about sustainability at a level of 30,000 feet unless the lowest rung gets fitter.
Absolutely.
And when I talk about the lowest rung, it's the farmers.
Sure.
If you look at the plight of farmers today, and we have an agricultural scientist who's essentially working with us in solving, have you ever seen a farmer with his head straight up, walking amongst you? His head's always down.
We are in Maharashtra.
He's an entrepreneur, anywhere in the world.
We are in Maharashtra these days.
I know, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He is an owner of a business.
Right.
Of a business that he does not know is risky, and does not know how does he sustain that value. Why does he do that? Number one, I believe 1970s Green Revolution was a curse that India suffered from.
Yeah.
Automation, mechanization of agricultural techniques has put the soil down to such a value that the soil does not bear anything fruitful today.
Yeah.
You're eating that fruits today. If the farmer was to give a premium at every one of your table, you couldn't even have 1 spoonful of what you're eating today. Yeah. So if you're essentially talking about sustainability of the climate, sustainability has to come down from the grassroots itself. Why India? And I think maybe your interest level lies over there. We are the fringe. We're the fringest part of the world where you would find almost every use case running. Right from driving on the roads, which is more of an art than science these days, where you would have experienced it, to the farming community and the climate changes, to geographical diversity, to linguistic diversity that India fears. If you've got to solve a world's issue, you've got to look at the fringe, solve it there, and then take it to the world. And then we talk about sustainability. I think the only thing that we don't have is a large carbon footprint, so we can't really have solutions regarding that. Sure. But with small of carbon footprints, with solving the community at the bottom-most rung, and then taking sustainable efforts onto the climate change, would essentially be what I would suggest going forward with universities, organizations, etc. to take it, right?
Great. I think, thank you for bringing that up, because when you talk about the farmers and the way, the places they are residing, they are actual villages. And in India, you have around 700,000 plus villages. So if you're looking for a scale to solve those problems at the bottommost layer of the pyramid, there are plenty of them. And he mentioned about the carbon footprints. The biggest countries who have been the creators of those carbon footprints are backing off from that leadership position when it actually comes to the solving of that problem. And we have all seen on the first session that why this Madrid negotiation failed. You know, people have been talking about it, and everyone gets back to the point, how dare you? Right? It's one element, it's one part to speak about it, how dare you? But what essentially we are trying to do, and I think what Nikhil mentioned, that you need to first strengthen the bottommost layer of this whole problem, which is villages. And that's my next question, that when you talk about this whole EVF, you know, your V stands for the cities in French, whereas V in India is for villages, right? With regards to the three pillars of a society or a community, research organizations would always be, or the colleges or the universities will always be the beds for creating a new body of knowledge through researches or through teaching learning processes. But once that is patentized, once that is made into a fashion that it needs to be commercialized. And that's where the role of the corporates like Tech Mahindra, Capgem, and others starts coming up. So, and then the third role of the government organization or the government system to regulate both these players starts coming in. How do you blend these three roles? And with the action item, I would like to request you, because I think we are going to be running short of time. I'll let you, Professor, speak on that one first. How do we blend these three with the responsibilities? Because now we have these two gentlemen from the industry right here in Pune. We have the academic institution as MIT right here in Pune. You have these gentlemen from France. How do you blend this and take this forward in an actionable items? Please.
Thank you. I'd just like to take you up on Madrid. We're talking about technology and education, and how one can perhaps get migration, that you've got so many engineers here and we're desperate for them in Europe. But the problem is you've got a very small minority of people that are doing all the consuming, the rich people. Now, we've actually probably got to have a carbon consumption tax, carbon border tax, and that's probably got to feed back. My question would be that if we could get this carbon tax into India and China, what would you do with it? What do you want? Because I think the thing is, the politicians are discussing, and most of them are pretty ignorant of technical things. We've got people that are Extinction Rebellion that want things to happen by 2025, which frankly is ridiculous. You've got to have the understanding of technology. Technology is not going to solve the problems because the population is increasing. So imagine that we have succeeded in Madrid and you in India have this reserve of money. What would you do in Pune? What would you want us to say to our politicians? and our movers in society. So we can say, here's a good case. What would you do? So it would actually encourage, with the capitalist system, which does need changing. We have had CDM, and people have got their way around that. But what would you do if you had all this money from...
I think it's a great idea, Professor, for carbon tax as well, but I think it needs to have an ethical switch in India. And the only thing I'm more concerned about is if you put a carbon tax as a general principle, I think the lowermost rung, which is the farmers, would not be able to pay that tax.
They're talking about the consumption in the Europe. They will pay...
No, but he's asking about bringing the carbon tax over here and what would we do. I think one thing that we can probably think about is essentially putting up a price on carbon tax within the corporates. And I'm sorry, I won't say it in front of Tech Mahindra, but the idea is how much do you consume and how much do you dissipate as a carbon should be a taxable value within an organization that is running a group of people. And they are moneyed and they have the money. The second thing would be that basically dividing it as tax slabs. The way we do as tax slabs of 33% to 34% to let's say 5 to 10%, you can probably add a 0.5% or maybe a 0.1% tax slab to the carbon footprint. And that money of 0.1% essentially goes in funding things that we want to do beyond carbon. Now, people would be wary of how much carbon do they put in, and there should be a reducing timeline saying that first year will give you a 1% tax increase, but then as you go on improving over a period of time with your carbon footprint, you essentially reduce it down. My challenge is that India is not the country that produces a maximum carbon. This ideology should essentially go towards the Western world first. But if you want, we'll still lead the way, and you can bring in this carbon tax and we can essentially apply some parts of it over there, but not to beyond a certain rung that you want to apply this. And that's where I'm talking about an ethical switch over here. Let's switch it only above a certain level. Let's not keep it at a farming community or maybe beyond a certain layer, but keep it as a reducing compound tax to make sure that countries work towards it because their people want to work towards it, because now they are paying the money and the government has to spend it. Because typically today what we're talking about in environmental changes is some forums like these and some conventions that is happening, the rubber's not meeting the road. The rubber would only meet the road when it essentially affects a human being. And for that practicality, it has to be brought in from a government or a law perspective, as you rightly mentioned.
So,
Sorry.
I'm not saying that you guys get taxed. I'm saying you get the money from the fat cats.
So let me just weigh in on that if you want.
What would you actually do with the money you get?
A good question. I think I don't.
No, I'm like that.
So
He was completely, putting his thoughts. If he's taxed,
so you don't get taxed. It's the fat cats in the West
taxes as well.
No,
I'm saying taxes as well because that is what will put in value behind the individual as well. If I talk about environmental change and my neighbors in my community don't really talk about it, it's a waste of an effort. How do I make them assured that the moment you keep your car engines running, this is the percentage of tax that we are collectively paying to the government? That effort has to be brought in at an individual level. And that's why I'm saying do taxes, but taxes ethically and make sure that it's a compound reducing act. You wouldn't be able to make a change unless you say that we give you money. The moment you give us money, it might be used for the most prominent and the prioritized sector that we want to do. That's farming. But that will not do anything for the environment. The industry would still keep on running. So it's got to be a balance that has to be weighed.
I think, this whole carbon tax concept was discussed day before yesterday. The rich countries who have been contributing towards this whole massive CO2 output, who are consuming, and if the things are being produced in these India and China, when they are being consumed there in those countries, they need to pay taxes to these countries, right? Because we still are lower output countries. If we get that dollar money, let me just weigh in with my small thought, my 2 cents. Really, as we all agree that India has around 700,000 plus villages. The challenge starts happening when we say everybody wants to get to smart cities. Everybody wants to migrate to a city. And all of us are sitting in this city called Pune. It's number 2 on the smart city list. And he pointed out that this city is struggling from air quality, from traffic congestions, from the waste management, and all that. And while we aspire to bring all these best cities, we are not putting enough focus on building these so-called satellite towns or the smaller villages. And that's where we come from. Our thought process of building this innovation and entrepreneurial culture in this country from an Atal Innovation Mission perspective is that we don't need the Fagma mafia. We don't need 5 big companies controlling this country. It has to be 100,000 small to medium enterprises running from these villages. And if there are 700,000 villages, and even if we can create one good startup there, which employs local people there, and starts building that community, starts impacting that community, you don't end up in rushing towards creating these mega cities and again trying to solve the problems of mega cities. And so that dollar that you're talking about can be spent to this bottommost pyramid and making their life easier, giving them those resources, giving them that infrastructure so that they can start making their life easier right there where they are. The whole issue started happening when this so-called glamification of migration from the rural belt to urban belt started happening, because everybody thought the jobs are in the urban cities. So people are actually leaving their work, their skills, which they have been getting from their forefathers, and migrating towards urban cities just to do these petty jobs of security guards or being the drivers of something. So if we can get that money, I'll probably put that money in creating at least one startup in those villages which can make the life easier for those villagers and start dissipating, this concentration of everything towards the urban and making life slightly easier probably than we are in.
Thank you. I think with the question of Professor Livermore and your contribution and answer, you are making a very nice question for next EVF maybe edition. Because it's easy when you look of the development of renewable energies. The context when I go to Africa, to Asia, something, the context was that poor people has contributed a lot to develop technical things for renewable energy. But when I work close to Luxembourg, I see the inverse is people from Luxembourg who are very rich can make a panel. There is some city working just with the money is energy I give you. Sometimes they charge, they don't know euro, the money will be a money energy because they sell electricity, they sell biomass, etc., etc. And this is the same observation for the city of the future. The city of the future, 2 schemes are possible. The development, which is statistical, of metropoles, where everybody can go to metropoles. The other possible development is like a cluster, when people are making food, are making a specificity, and this cluster, I worry that this good development of cluster of city of the future can be only available to rich people. Not to people, as you said, where villages have to develop their specificity, their own food, their own renewable energy, their own knowledge, etc., etc. So this is, I think, a good topics for our development of the energy and the city of the future. Let me just 1 minute came to our discussion between the gap between the industry and university is a real gap, because in everywhere in the world there is a real gap. And my analysis give 3 important points. The first point is the dialogue. We haven't a clear dialogue between people coming from industry or coming from university. For that, if university people go to industry and vice versa, maybe we can develop some common dialogue. Here also we animate with Professor Moomen a dialogue between engineer and doctor. Engineer and doctor to understand, to change the position and to understand what the other want from me and vice versa. This is important. When we have this dialogue, engineer, doctor, university, industry, we came to the answer to the responding time, to the characteristic time. Because a colleague have a problem from his boss, from his administration, from the minister, that he have to give an answer. He not wait for me 3 years to give him the answer. Is it the time? The time of the factory is not the time of the university. It's very important. And that link immediately think to the cost. Link to the cost, and everything have a cost. You mentioned that possibility of reduce the cost by not using a lot of things. The new generation haven't any idea about the cost of things. Open the heater and open the windows, etc., etc. But the reverse of what is the reverse of the cost? Is the generosity. People from university give for free conferences around the world. It's important. We don't ask that for industry because it's not the same situation. When you are with us, your job is not. My job is continuing because it's my job. It's different. So these to install this philosophy, if we have to give things free, and you have also be careful when you receive things free. In Europe, you pass here, you can meet some people that's témoins de Jéhovah. They give you books free, they give you things free, but they like to manipulate your manner of thinking. So you be careful with free. You have to be generous to give free, but be careful also with free. And to have this culture of what is free, maybe can also solving efficiency. This is a mathematical question. If you multiply small thing by infinity, the result is not zero. So it's very important to make this communication between university and industry and to share that with new generation. Our big fault is that when you realize that your son doesn't have the photograph as we have when we be, sometimes we have this opinion that all small generation or new generation know everything. No, they know nothing. There is a truncature what we know, and we have to learn them from the origin of the history. That is my thank you.
Dr. Rashid, I think I had captured something from what you said, and it might give my point of view on what you're asking for. I think you talked about economic development. You talked about economic development, responsible economic development, right? If you look at it, last 70 years, 60, 70 years, two things have happened. One is the population has gone up drastically. You did talk about it, right? We are 7.5 billion people on Earth right now, consuming all these resources. The second thing happened is that the economic status of every individual on Earth has gone up from where it was earlier. We have lots and lots of facilities which is becoming available to us. And I'm not talking about India, I'm talking about all over the world. And that's why we have on an average 25% more mobile phones than we have people on Earth. We don't need that actually. We don't need extra money, actually. Nobody needs extra money to create sustainability. Maybe we have too much of money, which is bringing to your point. People are becoming comfortable, that's heater and usage of AC are very simple examples. Usage of cars in India is a status. It is not a necessity. Sometimes it is status. And some people do travel a kilometer or 2 kilometers in car because they cannot, as a status, they cannot or don't want to walk. See? So we have too much of money. We don't need extra money. Any country. Maybe we have to figure out a way of taxing based on the consumption of the free resources, which could be air, which could be water, which could be anything. We need to constrain that. Very simple thing. We are still trying it out in Capgemini. So in India, we have millions of people working in IT industry. And quite a few people, almost all of them, have to go to the campuses every day and come back. Assume 10-kilometer travel to the office, 10-kilometer travel back to office. Can it not be done from home? Very simple question. 10 million people in India working from home. Let's assume that 90% of them work from home. You're going to save so much of carbon footprint just because you're not traveling Rest everything remains the same. These are simple mechanisms that we are still trying it out. It's not yet 100% successful, but there are lots and lots of mechanisms by which the actions that you are talking about can be done. It's a separate, I think, couple of months of discussions.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Just to complete what you said, I'm sure, in my opinion, we have no problem with money. There is sufficient money in the world. In holistic world, we have sufficient money. In the same time, we have, you have said it, we have more than 1 billion person who live under the poverty line, while the planet has enough to feed 12 billion. Actually, we are 7 billion. Where is the problem? We have more than 1 billion person in the world who has no access to electricity. And we have a lot of solutions with solar technology, with nuclear technology, with microgrid technology. Technology is here, money is here, but the poverty is here too. So we have a problem. And to solve the problem, we need more than 2 actors. Universities, okay, industry, okay, but we need the politics. It's very important. If you have the three levels together, we can transform, we can make over any cities. I give you an example. You are from Capgemini. Capgemini has been launched in Grenoble. That's a town I know very well because I have been a graduate for, I think, the best school of Grenoble. So Grenoble, 50 or 60 years ago, was a small village. Nobody knows at this moment Grenoble. And one day, a Prize Nobel laureate, Professor Neil, and the mayor of the city decide to transform the city. The university was here, and the graduate school, ENPG. Now we called it Grenoble Institute of Technology, but at this time it was the Institut National Polytechnique de Grenoble. And they call and they promote industry. So we have Capgemini, Schneider, Merlin-Gérard at this time. And in less than 30 years, Grenoble has been completely transformed. Actually, we have a modern city with high-level universities, laboratories, renowned in the world. The same thing happened in Toulouse. Toulouse was a small town. It's a small town, but and with Airbus, Aerospatiale, now Airbus, has been completely transformed. Why? Because the politics was here. The politics gives the cap. The politics promote. The politics set up laws, regulations, and push persons to work together. If we have the cap, we can work together. Industry and university, research, education. You need our students. We need your money to make research and to prepare future. We say, traditionally in France, we say that the engineer is the man of the science, existing science. And the researcher is the man of the science to do tomorrow. So we have to work together, but we need the cap. We need a line, a guideline. That's the job of the politicians. And now we need more than that. Because we have not only to transform our cities, our village, We have to transform our planet. So our government must to work together too. That's what I see, what I say that the sustainable development must to be responsible, must to be equitable. We need a new fair order, global order. To make, if you want to make, I give this image, to make a dome. And to make all the people, all the country working together. That's very existential for our children and the children of our children. If we don't do it, we have not to do. We compromise our future.
Perfect. Thank you. Sitting at the world's largest dome, home to the world's largest dome, this whole ideology of building a dome of knowledge, where the different thought process and ideas come together to build a new future. And I would like to just conclude with one of the biggest leaders of India, who was never a politician, Mahatma Gandhi, who said the mother nature has given enough to satisfy the needs of all the human beings, but it has not given enough to satisfy the greed of people. And I think the balance between a greed and the need, as you all of us pointed out and agreed, that there is enough money to satisfy the needs of everyone, but there is no enough money to satisfy the greed of everyone. So with that thought, I would like to thank each of my co-panelists on this, because I'm just doing a quick time check. It's already 12:30, so we want to wrap it up for the next sessions. Before we wrap it up, I would like to open the floor for any questions from any of my esteemed co-panelists. It's so diverse set of people, and I think we kind of touched upon multiple aspects also. So if there are any questions, I think we'll be more than happy to answer some of them.
Right, so yes.
There's one. We need to be equitable, right?
Sir, respected panel members, and I just had one question. Like, we are talking about posing carbon taxes. So it is a good idea, I think. So it's I'm really in favor of that, and I think we should also consider plastic tax also. I mean, on the corporations that are producing plastic, and also on the consumer that are consuming the tax, means consuming plastic. So by creating the taxes on, imposing taxes, we can promote the industries that are going to reduce plastics. So like in case of, we can say single-use plastic like straws. Yep. So there are companies that are making sustainable, renewable materials from, straws from renewable materials. So we can promote that.
Yeah, there are edible straws now on the market.
It's a good thought, but let's expand the thoughts to a certain extent. I remember 10 years back when in India, specifically in India, or 15 years back, we used to have paper bags everywhere, almost everywhere, because they were cheaper, right? And then the plastic bags came into existence. And I'm pretty sure every one of us who was going to market was happy. You know why? Because two reasons. One is plastic bags were reusable, so-called. And second, we thought that we are saving the environment because we are cutting less number of trees. We were very happy that time, right? 15 years down the line, the thought has completely reversed. Yeah. Completely reversed. Now we are going back to paper bags. Yeah. So in Maharashtra, in Pune, for your information, we do not get plastic bags in the shopping mall. So we get paper bags. So we are going back, right? If you actually extend this thought to anything that we are saying bad today, we're good earlier. Industrial revolution was very good.
No, it's bad.
IT revolution, the machines, what we are talking about were very good 20 years back. And we are taking the same thing back and saying, is this good? Automobile industry was the backbone of some of the country's GDP to a great extent. right?
Yeah.
Now we are saying that oil burning is bad and so on and so forth. Now we are coming up with electrical cars,
Vehicles,
and we are
EVs.
saying this is better.
Yeah.
Question is this better or is this going to be good 20 years down the line, right? So I just expanded your thought, not only to plastic, to anything that we use. And I'll go back to what Mahatma Gandhi said. He was one proponent, he was the biggest proponent of nature. He said everything that you can get from nature and use it, reuse it the way you want it, it's fine. Anything that you create other than this is a toxic waste. Anything. Plastic is one of them. So while we are having this debate here, we need to also think whatever we are doing today, whatever we are shifting to, whatever we are thinking as an alternative to plastic and anything else, is this sustainable? I like what you said. Yes, there are a lot of small companies in India who are creating various natural stuff. They are making edible plates.
Straws, yeah, plates.
Edible
Yeah,
plates.
edible
So you have your lunch and then eat the plate too. So those are the natural ones. I think those are the right ways to do it. But that's my thought.
Yeah, coming from a son of the land of Mahatma Gandhi, a Gujarati could have proposed that. He comes from Gujarat, the land of Mahatma Gandhi, ladies and gentlemen.
So I just wanted to add,
I
just wanted to add to that, gentleman. We industry are very wary of taxes, right? And typically all these knee-jerk reactions are very wary to us, and we are afraid of them. So as a principle, I think almost every industry today, typically IT services, has banned single-use plastic within their premises. Whether it's Capgemini, whether it's Tech Mahindra, we do not use single-use plastics. It's all banned. Even these plastic bottles, we would not find it on our desks now.
Yeah.
There is nothing in the premise that is there. But however, as Manish said, reactions cannot be knee-jerked.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got to look at what's the balance for the future. Like what we are saying is, plastic gives way to paper. Paper again gives way to plastic. There might be a third component. I think that's where generation or younger generation like yourself need to think about that future scalability. This was a word which was very badly used in India called jugaad. It's called frugal innovation. But I'd just like to add one more component to it called frugal but sustainable innovation. And because we are the fringe, we have the ability to do that. 1.2 billion people can have frugal and sustainable innovation if we find something completely different out of plastic, not cutting trees, as a holistic measure to solve this problem. Yeah, but the question is valid.
So thank you, Nikhil, on weighing on this. So I think we have a pretty decent consensus of opening the communication channels, blending the equitable society, and doing the sustainable part of it, and reducing the digital footprint before we actually go back to the carbon footprint. So once again, can we hear it for the wonderful panel who deliberated upon this talk? I would like to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your thoughts and probably coming to the next version of the Energy and Future conference also, while we were discussing and deliberating upon a few of the thoughts. I think it's the time for all of us to act. The discussions and the seminars, as we were deliberating day before yesterday, is over now, and hope that we have this whole band of people right here in Pune. I hope that we kind of start thinking about actionizing those thought processes that we have deliberated and intend to create a better and equitable society. Thank you once again, and can we have a round of applause for everyone? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we call this session, before we stop this session, may I request you to be seated for some more time. We would like to felicitate all these guests here.
I think seating was not sustainable, right? You've got to...
Right. So first of all, I would like to request Dr. Rajnish Kaur Sajdev ma'am, the Dean of MIT School of Engineering, to kindly felicitate Dr. Moumen Da Sherif, the Director of ICAM and EPMI, France. Yes, sir. Please. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Now, may I request Dr. Rekha Sugandhi, madam, the HOD of Information and Technology, MIT School of Engineering, to felicitate M. Ganoni, Dr. M. Ganoi from the University of Lorraine, France. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would like to call upon Dr. Sachin Pawar to felicitate Mr. Nikhil Malhotra, the Global Head of Innovation at Tech Mahindra. Right now, I would like to invite Vice Principal of MIT School of Engineering, Dr. Virendra Shetty sir, to felicitate Mr. Manish Mehta, the Vice President and Global Delivery Executive of Capgemini, Pune. Thank you. May I now please request Dr. Kishore Ravande sir, the Principal and Dean of MIT School of Engineering, to kindly felicitate Dr. Mohit Dubey, the CEO of AIC MIT ADT Incubator Forum. Thank you. May I request all the guests to come forward for a group photograph. Right. We'll just take 5 minutes more. So may I request the guest to please take your seats in the audience. Right, so there is one student of aerospace engineering from MIT School of Engineering, Satish is his name, and he would like to present something in front of you. So I'll hand over the mic to him.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste everybody. So I am Satish Kache, first year engineering student of MIT School of Engineering, and I'm studying aerospace engineering. So this year is very much related to the panel discussion which just happened. So we were talking about innovation and how students can change their mindset to ask questions, keep on their curiosity, and move beyond academics. So I think this year is a practical example of the panel discussion which just happened. So without wasting much time, this is an electric cycle. I named it Cyclotron because I converted my cycle into an e-bike by inserting a motor, battery, and a throttle over here. I can show you how it works. Switch on, and then you give the throttle. This is how it works. So Murphy's law, when something can go wrong, it will, and that's what happened. This just broke at the right time here. So anyways, so this is an example that we as students of MIT are also promoting sustainable development in our very small way. So instead of asking my father to buy a motorcycle, I put a motor to my cycle. So So that's how it works. This here is an essence of what we are studying for 4 years. This is the essence of engineering. If we can convert something into practical, into something which is practical and implement it in our day-to-day life. I use this cycle. You can see the tires. By the tires, I use it every day to go to my college from hostel and to do my other chores. So this cycle is a very useful tool. And if I can just ask to dim the lights of the auditorium, I can show the lights on this cycle which I fit. So this cycle has lights similar to that of an airplane lights. So being an aerospace engineer, I'm fascinated by airplanes. So this here is the taxi lights. I call them taxi lights. You can call them headlights as well. So you have two of them on the other side inclined at an angle. And then you have the direction lights over here, which is a red one over here and a blue one over here. This is used in an airplane to identify the direction of its flight. And then you have the anti-collision beacon installed beneath the cycle and behind the seat. So these are the lights which I fit on my cycle to make it look fancy. Yeah, thank you so much. So I've just painted the cycle today to make it look more presentable, and this is my electric cycle. It's called Cyclotron. Thank you so much for your time.
Very well said. Very well done. I guess this is the future, ladies and gentlemen. Please give him a big round of applause. Thank you. So we stop here and we take the lunch break. Yes, but I would like to request Dr. Kishore Avande sir to felicitate.
Here you can see the technical aspects of this cycle. So this is a 48 volt battery. This powers a 36 volt motor. The voltage is more because I wanted more power output. So this is a 350 watt motor, but using a 48 volt battery, it gives an output of 500 watt. So it has the battery gets fully charged in 4 hours, and it consumes 2 units of electricity, which comes to 10 rupees. And then this has a range of 50 kilometers per charge. So that comes to 0.2 rupees or 20 pice per kilometer, which is very cheap compared to your petrol vehicles. So this here is a 48 volt to 12 volt DC to DC converter, so that this splits the voltage of the battery into two, one 48 volt for the motor and two 12 volt for the lights here. So that's how it works. This is a technical aspect. If there are any questions, I'm downstairs. Thank you.
Battery as a self-chargeable while you're cycling itself.
Sure, that's the future. There'll be a dynamo installed and solar panels are also
So automatically
considered.
through your cycling itself, it
Yes.
will get automatically charged and you don't need to charge it externally.
Definitely.
So you can save back electricity also.
Yeah, we are open to ideas. Definitely.
How many hours you work
It has a range of 45 kilometers.
How many hours you work to
I worked. I cannot say that. Probably 2 weeks.
It's just a good answer.
Yeah, 2 weeks, I can say. No, no, weeks.
Well done.
Wonderful, Satish Kache. Congratulations from all of us. I am proud that MIT School of Engineering has such a wonderful student with us. And in fact, he's an example of the philosophy the MIT School of Engineering follows, that learning by doing. And that is what our executive president also wants, that our experiential learning should happen at MIT School of Engineering. And that has been happening. This is the third batch. He is the third batch student of MIT School of Engineering. And I think we are really lucky to have such students on board. And not only he, yesterday when he approached me that since we are all talking about sustainable development, energy, etc., in this conference, so yesterday afternoon he came and met me and said, sir, I have this electrical cycle which I should present before the delegates here. And that was really, people do it, but people also have courage to present what they have done. And that's one of the wonderful things. I think he has the qualities. And I think he would be one of the ideal students for all MIT School of Engineering students who would certainly contribute more such sustainable development related activities, energy related activities. And I think we all would be supporting all such students in their endeavor to what MIT School of Engineering has been doing. I must share also with all of you that that is the reason within just such a short time of 3 years, not only that MIT group of institution has the reputation of giving the best and something different from others, and so also the MIT School of Engineering in just 3 years has done such a thing that in spite of several vacancies that have gone in engineering, not only in Maharashtra but all over India, MIT School of Engineering has exceeded the number of seats available in terms of admission. And that speaks of what we say and what we do at MIT School of Engineering. Wonderful. Once again, congratulations. And on behalf of all of us here, I just present him the bouquet and the saplings, a sacred saplings of Tulsi. I think that is in symbol of the growth. He has just planted something, and I hope it will be growing in a big tree. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Satish. Thank you.